It's me, Professor Tree, and today I'm going to be exploring the latest leaks surrounding the Scarlet and Violet DLC. Let's go! Now, since no official information has been released yet, which really made my recent video age poorly, as I was genuinely confident that we would get DLC reveals based on leaks. With that being said, I figure that since the Pokémon Company won't release anything, I shall make a theory video. Just like big old MatPat. So first up is the main thing, the location for this DLC. Well, after a lot of thinking, I think a couple really cool ideas would either be the ruined Kalos remains after the events of the X and Y Z anime, or potentially the past Kalos, considering the themes of Scarlet and Violet was like past and future. So it would make a lot more sense, probably, to have like a time travel mechanic in this. One really cool thing I'd like to see is potentially going back to the time of AZ when you fired the original ultimate weapon that we see in the storyline for the X and Y games, as it's really interesting to see how that affects the natural order of things, considering Zygarde's whole purpose is to protect that and safeguard that, with the X and Y legendary Xerneas and Yveltal being the extremes on that spectrum, with Xerneas giving life and Yveltal taking it, as shown in the Cocoon of Darkness movie that Pokemon made. And so when factoring those things into account, it would make a lot of sense to send us back to the past to really get a sense of what's happening in the future in terms of the games that already exist. Maybe the DLC could be some sort of scientific expedition through the academy in Paldea to help study and clean up the areas that were affected by the X and Y Z sort of anime's conclusion. And through that, maybe we discovered there's a connection between terastallization and Megastones, considering that, like, I'm still confident the crater in Area Zero in the Paldea region was created by the ultimate weapon, because it looks like a bullet hole. It doesn't look like a meteor crater. But that's just my opinion. A great bit of info that we just received through the Centro Leaks Twitter account is the fact that they've also got an image showing tons of Pokemon that have not actually been added to the game yet as Scarlet and Violet sprites. Now, you may recall that I mentioned in the previous video that there was a leak at the tournament where they showed sprites of Pokemon that weren't actually revealed yet, and on that list of Pokemon they are there too, which leads me to believe that this image is indeed genuine. And I mean, it's from Centro, who are the most sort of trustworthy leaker account that I would willingly use leaks from in my content. And the Pokemon on this like compiled list of Pokemon sprites is amazing. We had things like Mega Pokemon, Legendary Pokemon, and just Pokemon from all different regions. I think there's about 300 in total, excluding the ones that are already in the game, so that's like 300 extra Pokemon on top of like the 100 and something we already have. So Scarlet and Violet's getting an amazing DLC. Regardless of what it is, we're getting tons of stuff. And considering these leaked images are all presumably trustworthy, it could be really interesting to see how the terastallization and maybe Mega mechanics are connected. I will note though that the Giga form, the Gigantamax forms rather, and the Dynamax forms of Pokemon are not present on the list of sprites, so I would take a wild guess and assume because that's a Galar specific gimmick, it's not going to be in these new games. With that being said though, the fact that we're getting Mega Forms means that for once, the Pokemon Company has appeared to finally listen to their fan base and add stuff back into the games that people want. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the terastallizing mechanic, but if you can partner it with Mega Evolution as well, could you imagine how cool that would be in, like, public battles against people? And, like, tournament battles too. Like, the World Tournament with this new game is going to be amazing. But that is not all. There's also some interesting things to note, as that we actually have the legendaries from Sun Moon, Johto, Kalos, Hoenn, Kanto, as well as the Galar forms for the Kanto Pokemon. We do have Urshifu, but we don't have Urshifu's other forms, and that's not all. We even have Ultra Necrozma, which is really interesting, because what it means is we're getting all these other Pokemon, but how are they going to deliver them? That is what I'm trying to figure out, guys. As from what I'm seeing here, we have like pretty much all the generations up till now in terms of most notable and favorite Pokemon being added in this DLC. Another really crazy thing to talk about is the fact that Centro also, as I'm making this video, just posts some images of what appears to be a Scarlet and Violet sprite for Complete Form Zygarde and Ash Greninja, which is amazing. We haven't had Ash Greninja since Sun and Moon, and I would love to see it back in the Pokemon franchise, as the Battle Bond mechanic was one of my favourite mechanics they introduced through that just anime thing only. But now that we've discussed the Pokemon, let's move on to my ideas for the DLC. Now, you've heard my original idea of having sort of an outreach program part in the DLC where like the school will send you to go deal with the XYZ incident leftovers and maybe do some scientific study. Maybe you'll go with your homeroom teacher, who knows? Jack is a science homeroom teacher, so maybe. But the interesting thing to note is there are so many potential options for this DLC, as the games themselves are very open and free feeling. With that in mind, since they've already given us Megas back, it tells me that we are going to Kalos to some degree, whether it's full-on colors, like to the main cities and locations we explored in the X and Y games, or alternatively, if it is simply just like southern colors, I don't know for certain. But I would love to see them turn a DLC into an excuse to make a remake for a game, and honestly, if they wanted to, I would be fine with them making expansion packs to add on to Scarlet and Violet as the next games. So like, say for example, Gen 10 ends up being like, almost like how Genshin has like different regions that are added per like sort of incrementally updated into the game. If they did that with Pokemon and they added, say, like Carlos remake as this DLC, and then Gen 10 is like another DLC and it adds a new region that you can travel to from Paldea, it would add a lot more replayability to the franchise, because you could go back and you could play through the entire adventure from Kanto to like now in one game, and I would love that for the Pokemon franchise, as they really do need a game like that to keep it alive and keep it sort of fresh with the younger audiences. Obviously, I am an older member of the fan base, so I'll play whatever they really put out as long as it's not terrible, but regardless of that, I really do think they have a lot of potential to really hit it out of the park with this DLC. Yes, we haven't got the national dex, but let's be honest, not every Pokemon is amazing. There are Pokemon that have been omitted for reasons which they have probably done very, very carefully. Things for like design, maybe fan-base popularity and stuff like that, and competitive usage is probably how they decided what makes the cut. That doesn't necessarily mean that we aren't going to get the national dex, it may just take time, but I wouldn't be disappointed with what I've seen so far in terms of leaks. It could be an amazing DLC, guys. One of my final ideas for the DLC is either that they maybe do them like as region-based packs. A great example of this is Jurassic World Evolution. When they released new dinosaurs, do them in like different packs. So they would do like the Cretaceous pack, the Triassic pack, and stuff like that. So maybe we could see something like that where we get like a Hoenn pack of Pokemon, a Johto pack, and so on. As honestly, I think that would be really, really cool and would add on to the game in general. Not to mention, considering the fact that the latest Scarlet and Violet anime is going to be based on sort of a journey style format, it would make a lot more sense to have region-based DLC packs instead of having one big one. But we'll have to wait and see. On February 27th, when Pokemon Day livestream begins, I'm seriously hoping that they give us something amazing, guys, as, honest to God, this could be the moment they change the way the Pokemon franchise has been heading, and just sending it just through the roof in terms of quality and content. I cannot wait to see what they do. But regardless of what the Pokemon Company deliver on the 27th, all I can say is we are in for a wild ride of content for the game going forward. Whether or not it's the incremental DLCs or one big DLC, we'll have to wait and see. But regardless, guys, that will be all from me today. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, or if you're new, please do let me know if there's anything you'd like me to cover in the comments down below. With that being said as well, I am going to be releasing a theory style video based on more sort of going in depth about my ideas regarding the Zygarde theory, but for now, that'll be all. See you trainers next time. Goodbye!